And good morning and welcome to the VSA Capital 5-Minute Morning Miner on Wednesday, June the 8th, the day we're going to have train strikes being announced at the end of June to create a summer of discontent. It's getting pretty horrible out there in every single aspect you can think of. Morning, Paul. How are you on that gloomy note?
Yeah, actually, I'm feeling a little bit blue. I just saw come through the RNS that Bill Hooley, the deputy chair of Anglesey Mining, has passed away suddenly. Knew him for many years.
Condolences to him and all of his family. Unfortunately, Paul, you and I are getting to that age where we see it more and more often, don't we?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Anyway, let's try and start. It's far too gloomy. Let's go to something much more positive, and let's talk about some drill results this morning from Afritin. Afritin is really starting to go places. Certainly, when I was down at Mining in Dublin, sitting on the judging panel of the investment battlefield, I voted Afritin as the #1 presenter. But Paul, tell us about these lithium and tantalum results they're getting.
Yes, here, this is the first assays are back from an infill drilling program intended for a total of 27 holes, and this announcement is for the first 4 holes completed down there on their V1, V2 pegmatite they're mining on now in the US Tin District in Namibia. 132 meters here is one of the intersections grading 0.17% tin, 75 ppm tantalum, and 0.74% lithium oxide. And that's also followed by another hole of 110 meters at 1.7% tin and 0.75 lithium oxide in hole 57. So this thing has got some really good thickness and really good grades here. So the purpose of the drilling program has been to get some confidence around some volume and grade determination as they put it into the mining sequence for eventual extraction.
It's definitely one to keep an eye on, isn't it? Because it does seem to be developing into a very serious mining project, and it's obviously in a good location of Namibia on West Africa. I mean, it's been a pretty good stock. It's actually up about 10% so far year to date, currently trading at 6.85p. Now, talking of results, Paul, and companies that we know well, Cleantech Lithium, there's been a bit of news there. They're developing a lithium carbonate project, aren't they, down in South America? And we know the FD very well, Gordon Steen, big friend of VSA Capital. What do they announce today?
Yes, this is Cleantech Lithium. They're working on a direct extraction process, which is to pass the brines directly through extraction media as opposed to set up ponds for evaporation. And this is latest testing results on what kind of quality of lithium carbonate they can produce with the process that they'd like to implement on a commercial scale. And the initial results here are very, very promising. 99.9% quality in lithium carbonate produced. It's a pretty small sample here at this point from this result, just 1 kilogram worth, 2.2 pounds. But it's very encouraging that the brine responds so readily to this extraction media process. It's a resin extraction process that they'll be trying to use, and it's a little bit different chemistry from the one, for instance, that Lake Resources is going to be trying to implement on their own brine.
Yeah, that's unfortunately quite a big step from a lab to a pilot plant to a full-scale production plant. So we'll have to watch how things go there. Now, also, one that I think caught both of our eyes was Phoenix Copper this morning. That has appointed, EAS, who we work very closely with in New York, but they seem to have appointed actually half the broking market as well, Paul. What was the news there?
That announcement they've put out is they appointed EAS and some other brokers, including some UK ones, in order to get away a bond issue for the CapEx funding for their Empire, Idaho copper project there in central Idaho. trying to raise at least 60 million toward that capex, and bond issues. As far as institutional take-ups are concerned, they like to start with 100 million as the right size and higher. So we'll see how responsive the marketplace is to something which is, rather than dilutive, direct equity in a capex raise.
Yeah, the only issue here is the bond raise is as big as the market cap virtually. They actually appointed 4 brokers to do it, which was EAS, Tigris, both in the US, and then Deutsche and Pamir in the UK. And then, of course, they already have Spangle and Tavira in the UK. So they've now got 6 brokers. That's a broker for every 10 million of market cap. If they make it to 100 million, what do they have 10 brokers? That's somewhat tongue in cheek. But
any predictions on who's going to bring the money in for them?
Well, EAS are pretty good. So that's the one that I would focus on. And there's a lot of money in the States. Anyway, moving on from that one, what else would you actually probably better ought to mention? Barrick Gold made a quite an interesting announcement this morning, didn't they?
Yeah, it actually came out late yesterday. Barrick has sold off its equity position in Perpetua Resources. Perpetua being previously named as Midas Gold, which has the stibnite gold antimony deposit in Idaho. Barrick sold off the entire lot of shares they had, which is just under a 10% holding of Perpetua, and received $21 million. Some comment on that is that it was my understanding from speaking with management over the years that Barrick had taken a position in order to have access to sulfides that the stibnite operation was concentrates was going to produce, because they needed those down in Nevada for their own refractory ore processing there. But it appears for whatever reason, whether it's permitting taking so long, over 6 years now, or they've just moved on and don't need it anymore, that Barrick has exited the position.
Fair enough. There's also maybe finally a bit of news coming out of copper in Cyprus, isn't there, with the JV between Bezant and Ceres Minerals?
Yes, that's right. They have released assay information from a program of 11 holes that had showings of between 5 and 20 meter intervals, which have been showing grades of 1 gram gold and 0.5 to 2.3% copper in each of these holes. That's on the Anglizides license there in Cyprus. So pretty encouraging numbers there. Let's see how many more of these they can put together in future drilling.
Okay. Any other little thing you want to mention, Paul, before we call it a day?
Yes, on the TSX, we had Fireweed Zinc. They've done a deal in order to grab the Mactung tungsten deposit off of a property which adjoins their own SEDEX-style lead zinc mineralization property there in the Yukon. They're going to pay Canadian $15 million to acquire it, and most Canadians or North Americans recognize the name of the Mactung tungsten deposit. It's been a deposit that's remained unmined for several decades now, a pretty significant one.
How does that look compared with Tungsten West?
Mactung has a higher grade, but it is more remote, so that's the issue.
Still interesting to see a lead zinc play going for a tungsten play. I wonder whether that could ever happen in the UK. I won't suggest any names. On that note, before I say something that I shouldn't say, we'll call it there. We'll speak again tomorrow, Paul.
We'll see you then.